first introduce one also, because now all of you are probably do not know the context of this. So we are a small organization. We call ourselves Organization for Nations Empowerment. So the idea, the main vision and goal of the organization is to engage young people like all of you. I don't include myself. Engage all of us in the society, in the issue of society, in finding solutions for the problems in the society. Now, when I say engage, there are many ways of engaging. One way of engaging is actually go find an issue and try to solve it ourselves, right? Now, that way of engaging is great, but it is limited in terms of how it can scale up. That means if suppose you see that a school is not functioning properly, some of us may want to go and teach there in the school. Now that is a great contribution. But what happens is that activity will continue as long as you are going there to the school, right? And suppose school needs some infrastructure, you can choose to fund it yourselves from your own pockets. Now that is great, but that can work only as long as you can give your money. So what we thought is that to make this these solutions sustainable, the idea is not to go and solve them ourselves, because that is the responsibility of somebody else to solve them. Now, what we need to do is to work with those people whose responsibility it is to solve them. Right? So that means what we plan to do is to engage with the governments, take these problems to the government, and somehow try to work out solutions and for these problems, so that these solutions are permanent. Right? Now, the motive for this is twofold. One is that these problems are getting solved, and the second is that all of us now will get to understand how these problems are to be addressed and how this should be solved. Right? We are getting engaged with the communities where the problems are there, and we are getting engaged with the government. Basically, we are getting engaged with the political process. Right? So that is and in this process, we believe that leadership will get built. Right? People, all of us, there is an innate leadership in all of us, and all this is a platform for us to explore that ability within us, and leadership will get built, and which is finally useful for society at large. So this is what one is about, and in this process, what we thought is one more thing that we believe in strongly is that it is a good thing to have a desire to do good for the society. Now, but if you do not know what is good for the society, that is what we do may not work out to be good for the society. So that in that sense, we should know what is good for the society. That means we should be able to understand different points of view and be open, right, before we start and jump and do something, right? So in that, with that in mind, we have over the last many months, we have been having sessions about each topic. Let's say elections, electoral systems. What is the right electoral systems? What is the system that we follow? What are the alternate systems which are followed across the globe? Right? Similarly, things like people say today we have something like Occupy Wall Street. Right? Most of you would have read about it. But is that the right approach? I mean, is capitalism good, or is a socialist state is the right way to go about it? These are complicated topics. It's very hard to say, okay, this is good, this is bad. Even the best of the thinkers find it difficult to say one is better or the other. Each have some positions, some points, but there are counterpoints as well. So one needs to be aware of that, to be open, right? So we have been having discussions on various topics, and this group has experience in working with RTI. I guess most of you are aware of what RTI is. It's called Right to Information. It's a tool that is provided by our state means government, union and central state governments, to seek information regarding implementation of different policies, any information related to the public work. So we have experience with working in that, using that tool, and we have also been very active in the Gopal movement, in the campaign that we have done. In fact, over the last 1 year, we have built that campaign in the city of Hyderabad. But now there is another group that is looking into it. But we have been very active members in running that campaign. So with this, what we have decided, in the last couple of weeks after a lot of deliberation is to try to find solutions for problems locally, right? In city itself, we have various problems. We have many slums, we have many people who do not have basic facilities, and there are other town planning related issues. Right? We want to look at them and see how we can find solutions. So we visited a slum last week and we interacted with people in the slums and found out about their problems, their issues. They are having problems with the land. They don't have legal documents for the land, and their lands may be taken up by the government. So there are many issues like that. They don't have proper roads in the slums. There can be many issues like this. So to understand more about this, we have this week invited Karuna Gopal, who is the president of Foundation for Futuristic Cities. So they have exclusively worked in this area for a long time, and they have worked with government, GHMC, Hyderabad Water Board, name it. So they have given them, they work with them, provided strategies for them to improve the situation in different cities, not just in Hyderabad. And Karuna Gopal has been a very well-known speaker, and she's addressed various national and international conferences at different places, and on a very big platform. And for her to agree to come to us and address this small platform, I'm very grateful to her, and I asked her to come and take over.
Privilege. I always liked talking to young people, so I decided that I'll give a break to my holiday and come here. So thanks to Suman, and I really appreciate what you're doing. I have always liked your father, respected him, so I now start liking you as well. And I like the organization One. The creativity of naming, One. It's really good because it has. Who's that?
That's one plus mark there.
Very nice. You know why? A lot depends on how you name things. There's a huge amount of recall. I see a potential for this to be seen and heard in other parts of the world. And for the simple reason that I called it futuristic cities, any country that I visit, people, the first thing they'd like to see is, who's the lady from India? Futuristic and India, so I like that. There's a big thing in names. Okay, today actually, I seriously didn't know what I should speak about because the kind of work we have done has really made me speak about very complex things, very complex and high level and intricate and those kind of things. But for a young group like you, I don't know where to start. Now, is it okay if I set the tone and give a context of cities? Is it okay? Yes. Can I have your permission?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So quickly I'll tell you in about 10-15 minutes what is the whole game of cities about, right? We all live in a city like Hyderabad. Okay? So I'm sure all of you have mixed feelings about Hyderabad. Some of you like it, some of you don't like it, some of you like it one day, don't like it the other day, like it 1 hour and don't like it the next hour, right? Because, and we'll have to understand why this happens. We have to understand why this kind of a, love-hate relationship exists with the city. Okay, so let me start right at the beginning. See, we live in a country called India, and India has the second largest urban system in the world. After China, we have, when we say urban system, we are talking about cities and towns. So India has the second largest urban system. We have something like 400 million people living in our cities. And the government has categorized cities and towns, and today the count is more than 5,000 cities and towns in India we have. And increasingly cities and towns are getting importance because these areas are contributing a lot to the gross domestic product of the nation. So almost 65%, as it stands today, our urban areas are contributing 65% of gross domestic product. Now, 65% is contributed by just 30% of the population because urbanization is only 30%. So, the more, if you look at India urbanizing more and more people moving into the cities, then you can expect more contribution to the gross domestic product. So, in other words, what are we saying? We are saying that cities are healthy for a nation's economic development. And it's not only in India, it's elsewhere in the world, that any country that has seen more urbanization, that is people moving from rural parts to the city centers, the nation itself has progressed economically. So So far that has been the conclusion. So obviously we have a reason to celebrate, right? We should be ecstatic, we should be so happy. But are we happy in cities? We are not. Most of the time we are not, because in India we have not been prepared for this migration. We have not prepared for urbanization, and therefore we are not in a position to celebrate. Yeah, it's something like a marriage that happens unannounced. You didn't
Dress up.
you didn't buy clothes, you didn't cut your hair, you didn't, so you want it, but it happens and you're not ready, so you don't like it. Yeah, it's good for you too. So the point is, this is exactly what has happened to India. Okay, now we are at a stage where we, as I told you, we have a love-hate relationship. And today, if I have to talk about the problems of Indian urban system, we have the problems, essentially the problems are complex, the problems are layered, and the problems are systemic. You understand, all of you are into programming, right? You understand all these, complexity and layered and systemic, deeply ingrained into the system. Now let's talk about the first layer of problem. What's the first layer of problem? You and I experience on a daily basis, right? We have air pollution, we have noise pollution, we have traffic congestion, then we have no water, then the garbage is like, stinking right outside your home. These are the first layer problems. All of us experience them and totally experience them. Dig a little deeper, you go to the second layer of problems. Why we are experiencing the first layer of problems is because of the inner problem. What is the inner problem? There are too many agencies, like there is a GHMC, there is a municipal corporation, there is a water utility, there is a urban development authority, there is a pollution control board, there is there is HADA, HUDA, you have some 100 organizations, and the second layer of problems is to do with multiple organizations that do not know how to come together and work. And it is not only that, you go inside these organizations, you will find that the staff is not capable. See, today you are all sitting here getting trained because you are going to be an asset to an organization. But the organizations we are talking about, like GHMC, all of them are manned by people who are not capable, not totally capable. I am not saying that they are duds, but I am saying that they don't know the latest protocols, they don't know the latest technologies, they don't know the processes and all those. So the second layer of problems is multiple agencies, people who are not qualified, people who are not trained, there are budgetary deficits, and there is inability to absorb technology. Like supposing there is an oracle, there is somebody who comes and says, sir, we'll deploy ERP. Do you think they are in a position to understand what is ERP? So obviously that's the second problem. So you go to the third layer of problems. The third layer is a very critical thing. The third layer is about actually the metropolitan governance framework, which is very difficult for you to understand, but let's assume it's to do with the legal framework in which cities are formed, city agencies are formed, town planning acts that determine what kind of a city has to be planned. So multiple layers, complex and systemic, ingrained. That's the reason we are experiencing these problems. Now, in common man's terms, they say that Indian urban system, like most other systems in the world, is deteriorating, it is decaying. So it is deeply distressed, what we call as a distressed system. Now when I say distressed system, supposing let's say a human being is distressed, typically let's say Karuna is not well. And when Karuna is not well, what happens? What do? Do we ignore Karuna or call a doctor? Yeah, so we put her in NIMS and then we call the doctor. So what does the doctor do? He knows that Karuna is in distress and he has to do something, so he comes to my bedside, and when he is coming there are a lot of people who are looking at the doctor, like his colleagues, other doctors and also nurses. They come and give him a whole lot of reports. They say, sir, this is her BP, sir, this is her blood sugar, this is her blood picture, this is her ECG, this is her EEG, this is her CA125. So they keep giving number of reports. Straight away, if you really know how hospitals work, the minute he comes there, they dump a lot of reports on him. What does the doctor do? He'll say, hang on. Say, hang on, wait. You know why? He wants to first check my vitals. What are vitals? First thing, he comes to Karuna and checks whether her blood pressure is 120/80. Yeah, first vital. He has to know that whether my blood pressure is 120/80. Second vital is he has to know whether my heartbeat is 72 beats per minute. And the third vital that he is going to check is, puts a thermometer and wants to know if my body temperature is 98.4 Fahrenheit degrees. And why is he doing that? Because any problem, the first problem will be understood straight away from the vitals. And the vitals have to be really seen first before you can look at any other diagnostics, right? So that's what he does. Now let's see what we have to do for the cities. Okay. Now cities are also decaying, cities are also in distress, cities are also having a problem, so cities also need doctors. Now let's say what the doctor has to do when he comes to the city. So when the doctor comes to the cities, because we've been working in this area, I know what happens. They keep dumping him with a lot of reports. They say, sir, the World Bank report says that the slums have improved. Okay, sir, the USAID report says that there is a better efficiency in water board because of implementation of ERP. So they keep giving all kinds of reports. But what does the urban doctor have to do? He doesn't have to see them first. He'll say, son, wait for a while. And then he has to go check for the vitals. So this is the key thing that you as youngsters have to remember. The vitals of a city are three, necessarily. He will first check if the city is economically vibrant. That is the first vital. Any city is surviving because it is economically vibrant. It is producing city. It is a performing city, right? The second vital, he will ask if the city is environmentally safe and protected. And the third vital is the city equity oriented. When I say equity is what? Whatever we have the resources, are we distributing equally amongst people? Which means, are the poor people in slums, are they getting equal amounts of water as much as we are getting? Is the garbage being lifted from the slums as much as our garbage is being lifted? Are the roads being laid? Are other things being given? So this equitable distribution is also the third vital. So if all the three are in place, then let's say a city is going to do well, right? So let me just elaborate on these three and then stop. After that you can ask me any question, right? Now first, let me talk about economy of a city. See, how do you make a city economically vibrant?
Pay taxes.
Excellent. Any other way that you can make a city economically vibrant?
Promote business.
Promote business deliberately. Push for business. Then, you know how actually it is done theoretically and in some of the cities in the world. You know what they do? First of all, if you want to really achieve something, what do? We do what we call as the asset profiling. Let's say, I want Karuna to succeed and become world famous, right? So I just have to understand what are my assets, right? I have a thinking brain and I have 1, 2, 2 hands, and I write an asset profile. And then I think of maximizing my potential. Now same thing applies to a city. When a city has to be made economically vibrant, the city's assets have to be understood. What does the city have? Does the city have a coastline? Does it have? No. Okay. So what does it have? Does it have huge land? It does. Does it have intellectual capital? Are very intelligent people here? Does it have R&D centers? Does it have any other assets like universities? Educational institutions, and maybe a culturally active city. So typically what we have to do is we have to do the asset profiling and then see how we can maximize the potential. Supposing Hyderabad has a huge potential in terms of maybe IT business, ITES, maybe pharma, maybe biotechnology, any kind. So what we have to do necessarily is to maximize the potential and make the city perform. Otherwise these assets will be NPAs, non-performing assets. They will become big white elephants and they have to be fed. Okay. Now in this context, typically what we suggest as experts in urban area, what we say is we need to integrate how we design a city with the industrial policy. I'll give one example. Why we have been failing. This is too much of knowledge and funda for you, but it's important to know that this has not been done in India so far. And what is this about? Let's say that we need to develop IT industry. Okay, so we've experienced it, but how does it actually happen? You know how it happens? When if the industrial policy says, let's make Hyderabad the IT hub, then what we have to do is, we have to design, segregate a certain area for IT development. And then not only just set that area and leave it there, but we have to provide transportation there. See, typically what happened in high-tech city, they built high-tech city, there was a little bit of transportation but not much of public transportation. Then they couldn't give water and underground sewerage supply, so there was a problem. Now if you actually want to do it properly, you need to create the land bank, you need to develop it, you need to give transportation connection, which means there are a whole lot of buses going, MMTS going, everything going, so all of us can go to work, carry our bags and go there. And it is not only that, the government has to plan for what we call as the talent supply. You know, it's not enough to have office space and transportation, but who are people like you? Trained people are important to be there. So the government has to ensure that there are training institutions have to be encouraged. There has to be a network of training institutions so that whenever there's a need and dip in industry, these bunch of people can go and occupy that. So what we call as a backward integration has to be planned by the government. So we are not doing it. So that is how you make a city economically vibrant. Take any sector, take pharma, take biotech, take anything. This is how you make it bright. Now, let's move to the second one, that is are Indian cities environmentally safe and protect. The first thing is, I have studied the European cities. In European cities, they have a fantastic model to ensure that cities are environmentally protected. They have actually numerically calibrated models also. Then you take a look at China. You know, China has announced to the world, we don't care if we are not environmentally protected as long as we perform and produce. So, an example of US. In US, they have done such a beautiful thing. What they have done in the United States is, they have the transportation department. That means all the supply of buses and railroad and all that. That is connected to the energy department, which means how much of energy is consumed by this particular fleet of buses, they know. And this particular transportation agency is also connected to EPA, Environment Protection Agency, to ensure that emissions are not too much. So this is a very brilliant way of ensuring that environment is protected. In India, we don't have that. In India, we don't do that at all. You go to APSRTC, go to the railways, go anywhere and find out, sir, energy consumed, what energy, which energy, and it's impossible. They can't even tell you. Yeah, very beautifully they'll ask you and then they'll give you chai. We were consulting in Agra. Agra was we were giving technical advisory support to Agra. So I would go there for, getting data and all that. They would make me sit there and the commissioner said, we would ask him, how far have you implemented, the reform project and all this? He said, ma'am, come and, so he would call his entire battalion, come everybody, so all the senior officers would sit there. And I would ask that question. He said, ma'am, ko lassi. It's amazing. And then I ask another serious question, ma'am, ko faluda. What is this, yeah? I am telling you, this is amazing. So in India, what typically happens is, it's very difficult because they can't answer those questions because they don't have those, methods to work. Okay, so environmentally we are unfortunately we have a lot of technical support available. For instance, Cisco has a beautiful program called Intelligent Urbanization. So Cisco has developed modules and IT products that can make any city intelligent. They have been deploying them and I have experienced them in some other countries. So what they do is they know they can use it in transportation, they can use it for security systems, they can use it for water usage. They have been doing it. Now IBM also has a fantastic thing. In fact, in Washington DC, a month ago I was there and IBM has showcased such beautiful products. Now the beauty of our visit to IBM was that we were representatives of 18 countries. So I was the only representative from India, and when all of us went there, they welcomed us with our flags there, in all flags, and India flag was the first one. And they showcased 3 products, and they said that these are our flagship products and all that. 2 of them were built by Indians. And 18 country people were like, man, I mean, she's from India, and so that is the kind of prowess and what we have. So imagine IBM, Cisco, all of them have products that can be actually used for our Indian landscape, and Indians are building them, and we are not using for the cities. Why? Can you make a guess why we are not using them and we are not in a position to use them?
Lack of percentage, lack of government interest.
Okay, intention. Second,
Political will.
political. Yeah. Then think.
Money.
Expensive?
Expensive. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Then not really expensive. You know what is the problem? People like you are not there in the government. You know, absorption. The minute there's a IT thing goes, I believe my brother, who's a very senior IAS officer, his boss was a principal secretary, and there was a, first time they brought all these, computers and they were put there. He would say, take it up, because that used to bother him, because he couldn't switch it on and use some password to go there and all that. I remember, many years ago when we were there, so he would say that. So typically, the absorption is bad because there are not many people who are trained in this, The minute you train them, they're so happy. It's like a toy, they can play with it and say, wow, it is generating bills, and they're so happy. Okay, so in India, we do have these, technology problems. The last one that I talked about, economically vibrant. Second one is environment. Third one is about equity. What is equity? Equity, as I told you, we have to integrate slums into our lifestyle, which is very difficult because in India we haven't had a good track record of doing anything for the slums. Let me be honest, Delhi itself has 1500 slums and we have 1500 slums. Mumbai has, what is the population of Mumbai? Any idea?
1.5.
1.2 crores.
1.7 or 1.8. It's high. It's very high.
And slum population, Mumbai has, at least the records say they have something like 1.6 crores. So 16 million. What is the slum population?
60-70%.
Yeah. Mumbai has more than 65%. It's unbelievable. They say that only 30% of Mumbaikars are outside of the slum. It's shocking. It's shocking actually. So Mumbai has that kind of a slum presence. Now, what has been the history of our slum upliftment? It's been quite bad actually. For instance, you see our own city. We have been getting so many funds for no slum city, slum-free city. There's huge funds and all that. So this time when I was in one of the Cities Alliance, World Bank in the US, they were talking about we are doing so much of work. So I asked them, can you tell me something about India? Not much. We couldn't do much in India, they said. So, they are doing so much of work in other countries in the world, but not in India. So, we have a very bad track record. I'll give you one example. You heard of Dharavi, right? The largest slum in Asia. So, India has tried to do that. Let's talk about Dharavi. It has something like 700,000 people living in 1.5 square kilometers. Just visualize how they are living. Yeah, so many of them are living there, and they're extremely productive people. So the government had its eyes fixed on that, saying that let's redevelop because they are performing people. I mean, they're actually producing so much. So they announced in 18 countries that they need real estate agents to come and develop Dharavi. So why are they not willing to go there? Because you build a home some 60 kilometers away and then say this is what you own. How will she travel to my house and come? In my own house, my maids have rejected, they didn't even bother. Some of them bought, they have not been able to use. Okay, but this has been the experience. Now, my understanding of the whole thing is, in India, we have to go beyond the housing. We have to, no doubt, look at their housing, but you have to tie their livelihoods to the local economy. What is actually important for them? Why are they there in the city? Why are they there in the city? Most of them have lost their even dignity of, at least in rural India, there's a little bit of, self-respect and, or at least I have my piece of land, my cow, and they're looked at as, some self-respect. What are they doing here? They moved here. They're working as some domestic help. They're working as, they're completely working below their potential. So the key which government, I don't know why it's failing to see, is that the key is that they have to be tied, their lives have to be tied to the economy, their livelihoods have to be tied to the local economic development. So all the people who come actually are our resources. They have to be used in our industry and they have to be trained. The more you train them, the more they can contribute to the local economy, the more we prosper and the more they can take home In the meantime, build their homes also, the low cost housing. And there are many schemes. I mean, people like you who are actually interested in working for the slums. There are quite a few schemes. I don't know. I was talking to Suman the other day. There is an organization called Ashoka Foundation. I'm sure all of you heard of that. You heard of anyone? Ashoka? So Ashoka.org is basically a bunch of entrepreneurs who are thinking individuals who are given a little bit of a grant to do something for the economically deprived people. So they have a beautiful program. What they have right now is they want to, have you checked out their housing project? So what they want to do now is they want to provide housing for the people living in the slums. Right now slum people live in illegal homes and they built, and one day someone can throw them out and all that. So what these people, Ashoka, is trying to do is to come, engage these people, federate these people, maybe 100 slum dwellers who have an earning of maybe 10,000 rupees per month will be the target for those people. They'll federate them, and then they will coordinate and work closely with a real estate agent who is willing to build low cost housing for them, and then tie up with a bank so that they can pay EMIs. Someone who's earning maybe 10 to 15,000 will be able to pay an EMI of maybe 2 to 3,000, which is anyway going as a rent. The 3,000 is going as a rent, right? So this is the plan that they have. In fact, they have been contacting me regularly to help them locate somebody in Hyderabad who can help them with the process, because they want to at least start penetrating Hyderabad. They have done it apparently in other places, but Hyderabad they have not been in. So if any one of you is willing, I'll connect you. I'll also be a part. Let me just see, how many people can help make that happen. Okay, so ultimately a city will prosper, and Indian cities will prosper if we plan on the lines of how to make a city economically vibrant. The second one is environmental protection, in terms of how do we protect our lakes and how do we control the pollution, how do we look at air pollution, noise pollution, etc. using technologies and changing behaviors. Okay, now public transportation will completely ease the pain of emissions. Like you have a fantastic public transportation system, then all of us are not going to take out our bikes or cars, and so with that much saving will be there. And the third one is about slum upgradation. And I have seen in slums, more than the government, I think people like us who can go and help them out in terms of their own understanding of health, how to protect themselves from contagious diseases and how not to be victimized by local crime, and all those things will really take will go a long way. Number one. And second thing is staying aligned to the your organization one's goals, that making government work. Because today, go back and check, there are funds for slum upgradation. There is a Cities Alliance program that is given for no slum-free Hyderabad. What are the funds being used for? Are they planning properly? So do a study, engage with them, demand, because the advantage we have a tool like RTI. In fact, a very young boy who is my mentee has recently he's come and he said, ma'am, there's a 5 crore allotment for one particular footpath that has to be laid and nothing has been done. So he got the information through RTI. So he came and asked me, then we went to GHMC, and then the principal secretary called the commissioner and blasted him. That was supposed to be implemented. What did you do with that? And so he called his addition. It all happened like a tamasha in just half an hour's time. And who started it? This young boy who said, he just called me and said, ma'am, there's 5 crores allotted for this. So in our next meeting, we brought it up. The principal secretary called the commissioner called the additional, So that's how you have to get things moving. So I liked when Suman said that this is the focus. I really liked it, because most of the time people don't like to engage with the government because it's a painful thing. It's so painful. It takes away your energy and whatever. But if you really manage it well, it is the most paying and the noblest thing to do, is to push government. And once you start working with them, you realize that they don't work for 2 reasons. One is they don't want to work, and maybe they don't want to work. Maybe they expect some money and 1, 2, 3, 4. Other thing is you'll know that they are not doing it because they can't do it. They don't have the wherewithal. So you go and tell them, sir, this can be done. Will you write it? So will you write it and give it to me? So write it. You'll know, you'll love it, because you go there. He'll say you have to write a proposal. Let's say Hyderabad has to get proposed, let's say we want some industry to come here, some semiconductor industry. How does that come? Comes only when you write a proposal. You think the government has capabilities to sit and write a proposal? So they call some few people like us who can put together, construct something, and then they're happy, ma'am, eternally grateful. Because in certain cities in India, we have personally written the bid document for them. We have personally written the expression of interest for them to source consultants. We have done the due diligence ourselves. We sat across like this, interviewed people, and finally exhausted. And the government and they owe us 25 lakhs. They didn't even pay 25 rupees. So all these problems are there. And you ask them, we don't know where the file is and all that. So by then my consultants left me because I didn't pay them. See, I'm also a victim. Okay, the point is, you have to sit there and you will really like what you're doing because every day looks very meaningful to you. Sometimes we are all like professionals, we are working, we are doing our own thing, but the minute you engage in something complex and very difficult, larger than life activity you undertake, so you start feeling so good about yourself. Because you are doing something that others are not able to do, and even one little movement, like maybe a 1 inch of movement will look like 1 mile, which is very good. Share your success, start a blog or something, and then keep letting people know about it. I've always had this dream of starting one, a big, a portal for the Hyderabad city, where we all can say that this has been done, this has not been done, and all that. I started it because of my own reasons. I know why I'm not doing it right now. But if you join in, maybe we can do that. There's another important thing that we are doing right now is working on getting a vision for the city. Because right now Hyderabad doesn't have a vision at all. What it has is 2 documents. One is a city development plan, which has been written by consultants. And that document was written by consultants without even talking to anyone. It is a vision for Hyderabad, but written by consultants. And the second document we have is a master plan for Hyderabad. And master plan doesn't do much. It just talks about land use and zoning. It just talks about this is where industry is, this is where that's it. But it doesn't talk about where Hyderabad should go, what kind of economic outcomes we are expecting, what kind of health outcomes we are expecting, what kind of education outcomes we are expecting. It doesn't talk about any of that. So we want to get everybody to ideate on that, and we've already started the process. I have engaged some local consultants and experts from India, subject matter experts from India, and also managed to get some 7 to 8 international consultants. So we are all going to sit and rack our brains to understand how to come out at least with a document, so that becomes the basis for us to work in Hyderabad. Way back in 2002, when I think Chandrababu Naidu was the Chief Minister, I personally navigated a visioning exercise for Hyderabad, and we had a vision document, we had a vision statement, and he asked what should we name it, and whatever came to my mouth I said it, and that went as a document. I called it Hyderabad Ahead. There was something called Bangalore Forward. Some of you know. There is something called Mumbai First. By the way, Mumbai First was a document. At least I was private to one of the parts of that. 2004, they documented Mumbai First and said that they are going to make Mumbai a world-class city by 2013. 2 years from now. So go to Mumbai, please. Take a vacation there, a subject tour, and just see what it is like.
65% they are already
Exactly.
making
Yeah. So the unfortunate thing is why we are not able to do much is because there are not many people who are working in this. And right at the beginning, I said every problem that we have is very complex and layered and completely into the DNA. Like most of us cannot really treat ourselves if we have a genetic problem, right? So genetic problem could be, sometimes it goes into the gene level by our own negligence. Like for instance, if I am diabetic, I grow and die with diabetes, and who knows, my child will become diabetic at a younger age, because it's done. Anyway, I'm a student of genetics, so I know it's called inheritance of acquired characters. So what happens is you acquire a character, and actually you give it to your second generation. Okay, so if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
What about the land resources in Hyderabad?
Yeah.
Is there any land currently to develop for the future, what you said? Is there any land resource?
See, we do. See, Hyderabad, per se, there is no dearth of land. Okay? But how do you manage that land? Does the government acquire the land and develop on its own, or does the government create a policy where they say a private developer can get the land and develop it? So a lot depends like that. For instance, in Delhi, most of the land is acquired by government. So most of the development is done by Delhi Development Authority. Okay, so to that extent, you can control too much of land grabbing and abuse and misuse and all that. So, but here we have to have the guts to go for something like that, and it is not easy. You know how difficult it is to acquire land? You think somebody is going to just willingly say, I'm going to do something, that guy is going to sit on it because he has, most people have illusions about, how much they're going to get out of that. So we do have big problems. But it's a nice question, and you have to start thinking more on that. And then we'll start putting pressure on the government that majority of the land can be acquired in a very beautiful way, like you have the rehabilitation and those processes, reward systems properly, so that we will use it for public good. It can be designed and used.
There seems to be already a policy to provide amenities into slums, and some 3 levels of slums are identified, and yesterday also Minister did some statements.
There's actually a lot of material. I'm telling you, you'll swim in that material. There's so much, you'll love it. There's so much, but on ground it's very difficult for them. That's why I said, if you have to, your approach has to be layered again. First, get all the information from the government. What are the current policies? What are the budgetary allocations? Who are the players and partners? Get everything, keep them with you. Second, you just target, find out their priorities, where they are working. Then you can have something called the oversight function. You can just go and say, this is supposed to be done, it hasn't been done. So you go and see what are the bottlenecks. Why is it that they are supposed to maybe provide some services to a slum? Why are they not doing it? Where is the problem? So the problem could be at the highest level, it could be at the lowest level. So if you understand and start removing those bottlenecks and document it, then this document will perhaps be a guidance document for the next slum. This is how we tackled it, and I was sharing with Suman a simple program that we wanted to do. See, why don't slums get water? Slums don't have piped connection, right? They don't, each of the houses will not have piped connection. What do they have is public stand posts. So public stand posts, there was a time when they wanted to remove those public stand posts, but that is not a good thing, they need to be there. So what we told the water board was that they have to supply water regularly. How do they supply? But through tankers. And when they supply through tankers, they say, ma'am, we don't mind sending tankers. They are sending all over the world. So why can't we send to the slum? Why are they not sending to the slum? They are not sending because when they give a tanker of water, the slum has to straight away give them some X amount of money. Let's say it is some, how much is that each tanker? 300, 400?
250.
Yeah. Okay, so it's yeah. So let's say 300 rupees. These people are willing to buy. Each slum dweller will say, I'll put 15 rupees. Yeah. So he'll go and 15 rupees, give me water. So the tanker fellow says, look, I want 300 baht, I'll just dump it and I'll go away. Because he has somebody else calling from Kukatpalli, somebody calling from Derentment, water. So if you can federate these people, if an agency can go talk to them and say that we are going to ensure water supply on a regular basis to you, kindly contribute some X amount of money collected and then wait to, and contact the water board, let them supply water, and these people store it in one particular area, take as much as possible. So everything depends on how you federate people. I'm telling you, even the big livelihood problems also are solved only if you can get a bunch of people to come, sit down, share resources. So that is the biggest problem with slums. So and it's a doable, because Dr. Jawahar Reddy, who was the managing director when we were advisors to Hyderabad Water Board, he saw our work and he went on saying, I think we need to do some more work, but he's been pushed out and he's sitting in some other post which is politically sensitive, so he's not thinking water anymore. So, but whenever he sees me, he says, "Oh my God, we should do that," and so he will strongly is one of those people who wanted to do. So I told him, if you can push through the water board, make a call to the MD and tell him that 1, 2, 3, 4 has to be done, then it's fine. There's another thing we wanted to do in rainwater harvesting. See, typically every house we know we are mandated, right, to build one. How many of you have rainwater harvesting pits in your house? You won't. I'll tell you why. Because we are not used to compliance. You know, we know that it has to be done, but we don't do. Now, why don't we do? Are you a lawbreaker? Are you a lawbreaker? We are not. We don't do because I don't know how to build one. Really, I'm telling you, I just don't have any idea. What is the pit? Who builds it? Where do I put it? What is the... For this, what we did was, we told the water board that they'll have to coordinate with National Academy of Construction. What is National Academy of Construction? See, simple things, I'm telling you, if you use your brain, you can do wonders. National Academy of Construction has they're training who? They're training masons. Yeah, people who can actually construct and whatever. And this bunch of people, if they have a tie-up, water board, there's a request coming from a house saying that, you know, we want to go for rainwater harvesting pits. The water board can coordinate and they can source people from NAC. They can come and build something. Again, there will be a specification. It's so simple. We can put up rooftop gardens. We can do a lot of things as long as there is, you know, there is smartness. For instance, by the way, you can also make it a social entrepreneurship model. Don't be givers always. Learn to, you know, it's like if you become a social entrepreneur, you make money and you are doing it for the good of the society. So I'll give you an example. I don't know how many of you have seen. There are a technology provider, one young bunch of people. You know what they did? They came out with a simple software, a very simple software that sends messages. It sends a SMS. Okay. So what is SMS? It goes to a bunch of people in Vijayanagar colony. They're saying that you will get water today at 2:40 p.m. Yeah, you know how many women can't go shopping, can't do anything because the water can come anytime, and you know that. So most of them don't know when the water comes, so they stop their work and wait near, and they curse. They say, we don't know when that idiot is going to, release the water. So they are wasting their time. What we call as the opportunity cost has been estimated. It's huge. So what these people have done is they built a small software, and then they first coordinate with the water department, find out when are you releasing water at what time. So they'll tell the time, right? Then they get the numbers, mobile numbers of this entire community, and they're giving the message. So supposing a housewife wants to go and do some shopping or some clothes for her son's his uniform and all that, she's going to go out because the water is going to come only at 4:40. So why is she waiting the whole day, not doing anything, cursing, whatever. So they are paying, who's paying this guy? See, that's what I'm saying. Any entrepreneurship, people are not people don't mind paying as long as they get a service. It's the consumers who are paying. The water board is not paying them. In fact, water board is also paying, you know why? Because their curses are coming down, their complaints are coming down. See, it's all about, I'm telling you, I love social entrepreneurship. If you guys sit down, analyze what are the major issues, what can be solved using simple technology that's readily available. See, in India, we have something like 600 million cell phone users. The other day, I inaugurated a business intelligence seminar, and there was this gentleman. There were at least 4 highly accomplished speakers from other countries who came. So one of the speakers was from MIT, and he's come out with a very simple software. This is it is a mobile application. It goes on your mobile phone. Very useful for India because this can double up as a gadget that will check your blood pressure, blood sugar, whatever. Okay. Now, why is he doing that? Because he says instead of carrying some third, another gadget on the body, someone who's already carrying a mobile this can double up as that. So, if I am diabetic, I carry this, and someone who knows that Karuna has collapsed because of something, they know how to monitor this and then treat me, right? So, people are thinking very deeply about what can be done for India. And I'm telling you, if you are creative, if you are smart, there are million applications we can do with very less investments. Very less investments. And if you think slum people are poor, think again. They can finance your education. Huh? I'm telling you, go to China. In China, this is not now, okay, long back when people thought everybody was poor in China, you go to a China slum, they have LCDs there. And then they discovered that they have everything there. What they don't have is, It's a public health nightmare what they don't have in China. They don't use a toothbrush or a toothpaste. Most of the slums had LCD TVs, they had everything that they wanted, but most of them didn't have a toothbrush. So, that's what I'm saying. You think there's something called willingness to pay studies. Okay? So, WTPs are, you go and study the slums and find out if these people are willing to pay. You say, I'm going to give tuition to your son, will you pay? They say yes. I'm going to give you every day a bucket of water, will you pay? Yeah. Because you know why? They are paying more than all of us. They are paying for doctor fees, they are paying for loss of opportunity, paying for everything. So think of something very innovative, you can do wonders. One is service side, the other is entrepreneurship, because ultimately if you become an entrepreneur, you will have motivation to continue. If you are a service organization, I have seen the steam getting lost. So your one can be fostering entrepreneurship also. You can push people to start looking at different dimensions. For instance, there's someone the other day talked about a mobile barber shop. Yeah, today what is the biggest need? Nursing care, bedside nursing care. I'm telling you that not many people, you have somebody sick in the house, you will never get. I have to travel all the way to Kerala to get a male nurse for my son. And I waste time, energy, waiting there, and it's become impossible to get. And this is what we have gone through when I wanted a nurse for my mother, for my mother-in-law, for my father-in-law. Other than Dr. Gangadharan who runs Heritage, we don't have anyone doing that. So someone can get in, at least apply, have a portal where you have reliable maids and, there's a million things using technology you can do. Have you heard of Green Mango? The company that failed?
It failed?
Yeah.
Oh. The last time I saw it.
Exactly. See, typically, what happens is they couldn't take off as much as we expected that to. It's because the model that you choose is very important. They wanted to supply carpenters. I really need one very badly. So, plumbers, carpenters, and they are trained people. So think of, there's so many things, and these people, the slum people can be trained to become like this. There's also one more advice we gave to Rajiv Udyogashri long back, was you can have one person doubling up as 3 persons. Let's say there is an old couple staying in, how many old couples live in Hyderabad? Her sons are in the US and whatever. They need to have a driver, they need to have a cook, they need to have a maid, right? 3 cannot be afforded with 3 different people managing too much. But if you have Raju Udyogashri can actually train, let's say, one person can double up as a driver, a cook, and a companion, right? So wouldn't you mind? Do you mind paying 10,000 to them? You won't, because you are anyway paying your driver 8,000. You are paying your cook another 3,000, and you have a companion maybe more. But all rolled up into one. So livelihoods is, I'm telling you, it's very important. And if you can change the mindsets of these slum dwellers that all these are acceptable, with dignity you can be a car driver, then India would solve half of its problems. Don't you agree? Most of us have a mindset, I can't make my driver carry my husband's basket. Let's say my husband's carrying lunch. I can't ask him to, sir, Patkeltunar, why don't you? I'm a driver, madam. So I said, okay. So I gave him 4,000 more, he doesn't mind carrying it. So then you need to understand, if they can change that, I wouldn't mind paying him more. Yeah? So that attitude, in India, I'm telling you, you can do wonders if you can change the mindsets. Like dignity, infuse dignity into whatever you do. That's it. Okay? Can I go?
Currently, what are the priority areas which government is trying to work on in terms of city development?
There's no priority. It's only firefighting. Priority is only for the newspapers and for readers. But if you step inside, for instance, the government has announced the 100-day program, right? So I was very excited. I said 100 days and the government is wanting to do something. So immediately we organized a meeting, and then I met next to the chief ministers, I asked them. They said, no, we are doing it because Delhi is doing it. 100-day program. We are doing the same programs, but we announced in papers it's 100-day, 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 same programs. So they don't have a priority like that. So what we need to do is, we need to spend a little more time understanding what could be the priority for us. So, and when there are so many things, for instance, there's this lady who's always fighting for a footpath, right? She's always like talking about a footpath. So when she asked me, what are you people doing as advisors to government? And one day she came and she started shouting at me. So I told her, ma'am, other than footpath, see, for instance, a city has too many needs. Like, you know, there are prioritized, like talk to whatever. So footpath may not be the priority, but it is also important, right? You know why? Half the accident victims are because there's no footpath. So we need to, you know, each one, we need to understand what you resonate to, what is very important. According to me, I think if you can create livelihoods, I think for me, I have always been thinking in terms of my first visit to the United States was when I was very young. And they suddenly put me in a bunch of people like this, almost I'm talking about 22 years ago. And they said, speak. So I had to speak about India, whatever. Then suddenly what came to my mind was, I said, I come from a land of plenty, I said. Land of plenty, India was at that time what? Nothing. GDP was, you know, what was the GDP? It was something like 3.4. So we were not even known. So I said, I come from a land of plenty. In management parlance, we say there are 3 M's necessary for prosperity. Men, money, material. Men, money, material. I said, I come from a land of plenty where there are 3 M's, men, men, men. That is our resource. That is exactly our resource. We are still people, huge number of people, right? So I think if you can really address the livelihoods thing, I'm telling you, it will make one hell of a difference to our economy, to the people, their happiness, you know, enrich them, whatever. So even if you want to do something about the slums, tie their livelihoods to the local company. Push them, give them jobs. Yes, I think that is, if you ask me, that's my answer.
So, majorly the problem is with the execution or skills and less of skill.
That's what.
Can you tell anything about the administrators like politicians and
See, in the beginning only I said, they're not able to do because they can't do. Like, you know, for instance,
is there any problem with the last bill that we have?
In terms of framework, in terms of policy framework, are there any major deficiencies because of which all this, through which you can explain all this?
See, I'm telling you, we have very less policy problems. Our policies are fantastic. You know that when compared to any other international policies, we have some of the, in other countries, we have some of the best policy makers, brilliant thinkers in India. It's just that implementation has always been a problem in India. Let's say, take a framework, maybe let's say that, Bharat Nirman. Fantastic framework. But why are we not able to implement it? We don't have a strong grip on maybe supply chain management. We don't have. How many people actually know what is supply chain management? How many people know, what is a flow diagram? It's all stars. Nobody can interpret anything. So the skill gaps are too many. That's why I said, if you think people are resisting technology in companies, in Gurgaon, these people, Delhi people took me and then they said, you talk to our government agencies and all that. They wanted me to say that they don't like technology because they are resisting it. And when I interacted with them, what was the problem? All of them took me into another room and I said, madam, if you run a training course, all of us will attend. And most people, like for instance, let's say my father, maybe didn't want to drive a BMW, maybe because he didn't know where the gear shift was. He didn't want to ask me. That's what I'm saying. So most people have resist that. So if you can skill them, and how do you skill them? Excite them. For instance, Waterboard just started a Facebook. It looks so stupid, Waterboard and a Facebook. But apparently they're solving problems. If not some thousands of cases, at least some 100 cases are getting solved. It's a nice thing. So go and excite them. Say, sir, Facebook. So what will excite them? When we wanted some changes to be done to India, in fact, in Hyderabad, we were advising the municipal corporation. We told the commissioner, you will get an award for this. Immediately he said, let's do it. What did we want? We wanted some change in the city. Let him get an award, who cares? So he said, you get an award for this, the first city in India. And he said, chalo, let's do it. So you have to think around, use your smartness, use your technology background, use anything, push agenda forward. Because you want to do it exactly within the framework, nothing is going to work. Nothing is going to work. And by the way, in our lifetimes, we can't change too many laws, I can tell you. The other day, in Times of India, we were, some of you would have seen, we were talking in the Times of India conclave. The editor comes out with a program called specially administered region for Hyderabad. I said, that is your dream. Then he said, "Kyun nahi hoga?" Then I said, that needs a constitutional amendment. Oh, karwa denge. Hello. How do you just think about it? Constitutional amendment. So the point is, these things they remain as dreams. So if we are very smart, we can work around the existing framework, get very smart and move things. So in the meantime, if you want to do any research, understand innovations in public service delivery. There are some innovations where people just, the policy stays as it is, but you innovate and get things moving. That would be very nice.
Another thing you said, I think the integration was the biggest problem, right?
Very big problem.
So is the government is doing anything in that area?
They can't do, what is the surprising thing? Actually, we are mandated to do. We have something called metropolitan committees, where there's a huge, the topmost committee that is supposed to look at all the agencies coming together, and it's a coordination agency. And the biggest problem is now who's going to ban that coordination agency? So they do have, Kolkata has the only functioning committee. So other cities have not been trying. We tried, it came in the papers 2-3 times, but they didn't know whom to put there, because there are huge ego problems. See, I'll tell you, if there is any other problem in the world, we can solve. But if there is an ego problem, like yesterday, for instance, we were talking about the FDI things. Okay, in FDI, it's not bad economics, it's bad politics. The same thing in the United States. I'm telling you, US, I just lived there now, and then realized, oh man, it's all about what egos. They are not allowing one thing of Obama's to move the Congress. They are just putting spokes, in spite of some of his visionary things are so good for the low-income groups. So the agency thing is very difficult for us to make it happen, but we can do it intelligently. How we can do it intelligently? Just coordinate between these two. Like get some things moving silently so that the heads don't talk. We did one CDP exercise where the municipal commissioner and water board MD were sitting. They are supposed to come together and give a vision. The whole of the meeting, they didn't look at each other. Not even once they had an eye contact. Now tell me, how are they going to cooperate? So what we have to do is get a bunch of people to get things from GHMC and get the lower level can interact very well. Topco, let them look this side. Let things happen from here. We need to innovate. That's exactly what in Gurgaon also I told these people, that we have to create mechanisms for that involvement. Otherwise, asking them to bury their egos is very difficult. Anyway, all said and done, don't think things are very difficult. Start innovating. I told you, you like the SMS idea?
Yeah.
There are millions that you can do. Make money and help them, whatever.
Which area they are doing?
Huh?
Well, you were talking about how Hyderabad as a city, we guys are not yet, we guys are not prepared for the urbanization, or we never realized when it struck us. So now, let's say, to build up the GDP, or to make the city self-sustained and things like that. Let's say you need to implement certain reforms in any aspect. Let's say, so if I want to implement a health reform, so which should I prioritize first? Should I make the public, aware of this first and make them more urban, or should I first implement this thing and get them?
Okay. So who are you? First you said I have to implement, you said. So it starts there. Who are you? You said health reform, I have to implement. So are you the government?
I said health reform, I'm sorry. Let's say I'm a scientist. So, okay, alright, and I found out a technology or something like a catheter.
Right.
And now I wanna put it up. It's gonna, help the public. It's gonna help the healthcare industry.
Okay, I get it. So you have to. What's your name?
Katyush.
Nice question. See, you have to necessarily understand what is existing today in that area. Okay. So who's the responsible authority, and what is the department, who are the key people, and what is the existing framework and policy. Okay, now once you get this information, you go with your proposal. Okay, and your proposal should be backed by good research background. You know, you've done it properly, you understand that geographically maybe this is the area of implementation, cost benefit analysis, and how this aligns with the existing policy. See, people don't want to take anything new. Then you have to go and say, sir, this fits perfectly. Then he'll say, yes. So you get into that. I'll give you one example. You heard of Dr. Raghuram, right? The breast cancer person, right? What is he doing now? He's doing the same thing as what you suggested. See, the government is supposed to do screening. The government is supposed to do screening for women, whether they are going to become cancerous. But the government is not able to do that much. So what is Dr. Raghuram doing? Raghuram is a private practitioner, but working in the same area. He has a goal. The government also has a goal. So what did he do? He went and just teamed up with the government. They said, let's do it together. So the government is happy. There's someone who knows, understands the game. And then he innovated. He said, for some where you said technology is expensive, he said, let's use only in some areas. For rural population, we'll do self-breast examination. So he has come out with a protocol for wider use. How did he do? I saw in every meeting he would single out the health commissioner and a health secretary and talk to them. That's how, you have to go mingle with them, understand, and give it to them. Most bureaucrats are amenable to ideas, and if you have a good friend, that's how you work. Got it?
Because we're talking in terms of a huge scale, right? So
why do you just pilot it? No, nothing huge in the world has ever worked, Pratyush. In the world, unless it's piloted in a small place. This is a law. Tried in a small place, scale.
And why only cities, ma'am? I said only 30% of population live in cities, and most of them are educated and they know all these acts and.
No, that's the unfortunate thing. Most people think the cities are elite and all that. They're not. I gave you two reasons why cities, because cities are engines of growth. 70% of the GDP is going from cities, and cities are not necessarily against villages. Please, let's understand that. No city is against a village. Village people can come, rural people can come to the cities and they can prosper. And if a city prospers, there's a spill-off benefit into the rural areas. So we have to focus, some of us have to focus on this. Supposing you go to an educationist and say, why education? Why can't you work in health area? That's also important, right? Both are equally important. I chose to work in cities. That's it. So cities are important, it's fine.
It's also important.
In more smaller cities, or
yeah.
you should think smaller, single big
100% smaller cities. A large city is impossible to manage. Large city is impossible to manage. Unfortunately, the political behavior is such that they want large cities, because large cities get large funds.
So economically, large cities are more vibrant than.
No. Region. See, typically what happens is you don't have to have a large city. Actually, large cities are dysfunctional cities. That's why I had written an article, and I have written a poem, and I have painted on my poem. When the city of Hyderabad became greater. You are supposed to be this much, you became greater. Okay? You will have greater problems, and you have greater vulnerability. Unless you create specific areas for better management of this, which needs a lot of planning, which was not done. Now, after that, it became more greater. Now you are the second largest urban agglomeration. So all over the world you go and tell, I'm the second largest urban agglomeration. So, because anything big is great, right? So people want to go and talk like that. But even in the center, the bigger you are, the more funds come. That's why they make it bigger. If it's a smaller place, it can be very efficiently managed.
You're talking with respect to India or anywhere in the world, because the culture there is a cultural difference to the West, to India. Are you keeping that, are you talking with respect to India? that large cities won't
Large
work
cities
here?
are bad across the world, anywhere in the world. Large cities have been considered to be nightmares, and that's why across the world people are talking about smaller cities, denser cities, and reducing the sprawl. In Europe, you think that most of the cities have failed because they have allowed them to rot, go in all directions, and so in the US there's again talking about making them compact. So it's the same story. Most cities. See Shanghai, if you see autocratic nations, they can do anything. Shanghai can build thousands of kilometers of highways and freeways and flyovers. We can't do that because they plan in the middle of the night, but morning work starts. We can't do that. Democracies cannot do that. So larger cities may work in Shanghai, in China. They can't work in other places. Depressed?
What are the basic steps has to take to the smaller cities and to increase their numbers? What are the basic steps? Everybody is trying to establish an industrial project will be where the patients are available.
See, basic steps are first of all, there has to be a policy saying that we'll develop certain regions. Okay. Normally, cities develop for two reasons. One is there's a government will. The second thing is there's an entrepreneurial behavior. Hyderabad was never planned like this. There's a bunch of entrepreneurs who came and said, let's start our industries here, and the minute they started producing and everything started doing it, then politicians started taking interest. Oh my God, it's producing and all that. So you want to make, which city you want to make it vibrant? Tell me. We'll all go there and set up industries. That's one way of doing it. There are two ways of doing it. One is the policy. The government has to ideally come out with a policy saying that let's develop some 3-4 smaller cities around the city to make this city smaller and make other cities also better. That's one policy decision. Second thing is entrepreneurs do it themselves. But it becomes a little difficult when there's no infrastructure available. But if you are a keen, smart, intelligent entrepreneur, you'll know how to turn it around. There will be something in any place, in every place there will be something. So we have to go for that. I remember there's this store called Zeds. They sell shoes. Zeds. Zeds. He has a store right behind my house. So when he set it up, it was a high-end brand, and very expensive. He said, ma'am, when I went there, he said, ma'am, what do you do? At that time, I had a corporate consulting firm. So I said, I consult. Then immediately he said, will you help me? And I said, what do you want? I want to go to other cities and whatever. So he said, then I told him, why don't you go to Vizag? Vizag? Nobody knows about shoes in Vizag, he said. I said, that's the reason why you should go. You know how much money he made in Vizag? That guy, if he gave me an equity, I would be really making a lot of money. I would have made a lot of money. That's how it is. You don't know. You just have to go and check the place. Opportunities are plenty. But I can also tell you in India again another depressing thing, because you live in a complex India. So let's understand. Delhi planned smaller cities. Delhi was growing very big, and Delhi is a national capital. So they planned cities around Delhi, but most of them didn't take off. And the plan was made once in 1962 and later in 1980.
Gurgaon, Noida are
those cities, but they took shape now, and that too not in a way that we wanted. Like they were built by private developers, so there's no infrastructure. Go to Gurgaon, you're like, man, why am I here? So they wanted to develop a few more actually. These are just two. Wanted to develop a lot, not much happened. See, when you ask questions, why can't you be loud like me? Others also should hear you, right? My voice was like that.
There should be effort.
Exactly.
Last time visit field visit దాని స్పెసిఫిక్ గా
చెప్పండి. ఇప్పుడు గట్టిగా చెప్పండి అందరికి తెలుగు వస్తుందా? Everybody? No, he's saying no.
The people who do not also we should see.
No, it's okay. We'll move between languages. Yeah. Just tell me please. You went to slum కెళ్ళారు కదా? ఏమైంది అక్కడ?
ఒక ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్ ఏంటంటే వాళ్ళు వచ్చినప్పటి నుంచి తెలుసు వాళ్ళకి అది ఇల్లీగల్గా అక్కడ ఉంటున్నారు. సో వాళ్ళు ఇప్పుడు లీగల్ రైట్స్ కావాలని అడగడం ఎంతవరకు సపోర్ట్ చేస్తారు దాన్ని? గవర్నమెంట్
అంటే do we need to fight for them, or do we tell them, look, you do not have a right? Maybe government is telling you to go somewhere, you should go. Is that the right way to do it?
అసలు మీరు దానికే వెళ్ళొద్దు. ఎందుకంటే మనం చేసేది ఏం లేదు అక్కడ. వెళ్ళి వాళ్ళకి ఆ రైట్స్ ఇప్పించే ఇది కూడా సత్తా లేదు. ఇన్ అదర్ వర్డ్స్, I don't think we can do that. See, land is there's a big mafia. Tomorrow you'll have gangsters eating your homes. చాలా why అండర్స్టాండ్. వాళ్ళకి ఏంటంటే వాళ్ళు అక్కడ ఉన్నది ఎవరో వెనక ధైర్యం ఉండబట్టి ఉంటున్నారు వాళ్ళు అక్కడ. there's someone backing their behavior. సో వాళ్ళకి ఏంటంటే ప్రామిస్ ఇచ్చి కంటే మీరు కదలద్దు, మేము మీకు వేరే ఇస్తాము అన్నట్టు అన్నమాట. సో మీరు ల్యాండ్ లీగల్ అవంతా ఆ ఏరియాని పక్కన పెట్టి లైవ్లీహుడ్స్ కానీ, వాటర్ సప్లై కానీ, శానిటేషన్ కానీ, హెల్త్ కేర్ కానీ, ఎడ్యుకేషన్ కానీ వాటి మీద
what they told us is that politicians always have been promising that nothing will happen. So they have been keeping their promise that nothing is happening, in the sense that they got these notices some 15-20 years back. They have been getting the notices, but nobody is really coming and driving them away from there. That is there. But now they feel that something has started moving in terms of NIMS expansion there. NIMS is expanding for sure. For a fact, it is expanding there. Now their fear is, now they feel it's real that it's going to happen. Now they talk to politicians. They have their leaders, small leaders there, who have contact with politicians. We spoke to some of them. So those people are not, now they are not very confident that those guys will protect us. Right? So what is the solution? Is there anything creative that can be done there? Can we say that, okay, why don't the government build apartments like the way it was planned for Dharavi or something, right? But at a smaller scale, right?
అదే అవ్వదు.
1,000 families అనుకోండి.
ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ అదే అవ్వదు కదా. స్లమ్ రీడెవలప్మెంట్ అని ఇది మన ఇండియాలో సక్సెస్ స్టోరీస్ ఎంత తక్కువ ఉన్నాయంటే there is no success stories at all. See what typically they have to do. I will give you one simple example. It's called, technical term is, it's called in situ development of a slum. అంటే మనకి స్లమ్ ఒక 1 square mile లో ఉందంటే అక్కడే వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు బిల్డ్ వర్టికల్ హోమ్స్ అనుకుంటాం. అక్కడ ఏం చేస్తామంటే టాల్ బిల్డింగ్స్ కట్టేసి వీళ్ళందరినీ అకామిడేట్ చేస్తాం. That experiment failed in Mumbai, thoroughly failed in Mumbai. In fact, I'm on the advisory board of one particular group in Mumbai. They are supposed to build, they are something like 30,000 buildings they are supposed to build. They didn't occupy, they built homes. వాళ్ళని తీసుకెళ్ళి పక్కన ఒక ఏరియాలో క్రియేట్ చేసి టెంపరీగా రీలొకేట్ చేసి వాళ్ళకి ఇల్లు కట్టి ఇల్లు ఇస్తే దే డిడ్ంట్ ఆక్యుపై. కెన్ యూ గెస్ ఎందుకో? అది యునో వాట్, వాళ్ళు ఇక్కడ ఉంటే ఇలా ఉంటారు, అండర్ గ్రౌండ్ లోనే ఉంటారు. ఓకే, వెన్ దే బిల్ట్ వర్టికలీ, ఒకటి 8th floor, ఒకటి 7th floor, ఒకటి 14th floor లో ఉండి అక్కడ వాళ్ళకి బిజినెస్ చేసుకోవడం కష్టం. ముసలి వాళ్ళు ఎక్కలేరు, పిల్లలు పడిపోతూ ఉంటారు. దే హ్యాడ్ రియల్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్. సో బిజినెస్ ఇప్పుడు ఇలా చేసుకుంటే పీపుల్ కెన్ కమ్ బై అండ్ గో కదా. అక్కడ వాడు 7th floor లో నేను ఇస్త్రీ చేస్తాను అంటే ఎవడన్నా మెట్లెక్కి ఇస్తాడా? చాలా ఐమ్ టెలింగ్ యూ, ఇవన్నీ ఎంత ఇంట్రికేట్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ అంటే మన ఇండియా, ఇట్స్ నాట్ దాట్ పీపుల్ ఆర్ డట్స్ హియర్, దే హ్యావ్ ట్రైడ్ ఆల్ మెథడ్స్, దేర్ ఆర్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ దేర్. సో కొన్ని సిస్టమిక్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్, మీరు మాట్లాడేది ల్యాండ్, హౌసింగ్, ఇవన్నీ ఏంటంటే సిస్టమిక్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్. ఇఫ్ సంబడీ ఈస్ డూయింగ్, ఫర్ ఇన్స్టెన్స్ ఈ అశోక వాళ్ళు ఏమైనా చేస్తున్నారేమో, వాళ్ళతో కనుక్కొని, ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు వర్క్ విత్ దెమ్, ప్లీజ్ వర్క్ విత్ దెమ్. బికాస్ ఇఫ్ దీస్ పీపుల్ ఎండ్ అప్ గెటింగ్ దేర్ ఓన్ టెనమెంట్స్, ఇట్స్ ద గ్రేటెస్ట్ సర్వీస్ యూ ఆర్ డూయింగ్ టు ద ల్యాండ్. వర్క్ విత్ దెమ్. రెండోది ఏంటంటే వాళ్ళకి better livelihood, always better livelihood. You know why? Because my heart bleeds. There's so much of brilliance and smartness in them. A పిల్లలు కానీ, ఆ పెద్ద మా పనమ్మాయి కెన్ సెకండ్ సోనియా గాంధీ, అంత తెలియదు. సో బ్రిలియంట్, సో బ్రెయినీ. వాళ్ళని మై హార్ట్ బ్లీడ్స్ బికాస్ మనం వాళ్ళ పొటెన్షియల్ మ్యాక్సిమైజ్ చేయాలి. యూ కెన్ రియలీ ట్రైన్ దెమ్, టీచ్ దెమ్, డోంట్ గివ్ ఫార్మల్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్, గివ్ దెమ్ వొకేషనల్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్. వాళ్ళకి అప్పుడు we will have, I'm telling you, they can do wonders actually. There's so much of deficits everywhere. So land మీద అది మనం immediate గా సాల్వ్ చేసేది ఏం లేదు. You can't immediately solve, but you can engage with the government, check the current policies and hasten them, push them, encourage them, give them awards periodically, the corporator. Do something. You Veda IIT of Chinna award best corporator. Yeah, I tell you after. Papa, వాళ్ళకు కూడా recognition అవసరం కదా. వాళ్ళు లేకపోతే ఒక పెద్ద కార్ మీద కార్పొరేటర్ రాసుకొని వెళ్తారు అంతకనే. సో డూ సమ్ స్మాల్ థింగ్. వీల్ జస్ట్ వాళ్ళకి ఏమి వక్కలేదు, జస్ట్ ఒక బుక్ ఇచ్చేసి ఒక దండ వేసేస్తే ఆ రోజు వెళ్ళి స్లమ్ అంతా చేసేస్తారు. What else to do? We have to work on those lines.
Is it actually good to support them based on the premise that they've been living long, say more than 10 years, on a, yeah fine, whatever it is, 30 years, should we actually give them? That doesn't mean that they own that land, right? It's government's land.
I know, but see, then we agree, the whole thing, everybody, government also knows, just
like
because you
tomorrow seeing them, some other guy will occupy
that
some
is how
lake
it's been
area.
happening, no? That is how everything developed like that. Like you go and live in Delhi, you occupy this house, you have rented this house for more than 50 years, he becomes the owner. So typically this is what has been happening. So you can't, you see, all said and done, India declared itself to be a socialistic nation, and so you have to take their, you kick them out, throw them wherever you want. Yeah. So what the ideal thing would be, because they are earning some X amount of money, create some tenements for them and make them pay for it. They are willing to pay. So they have to be accommodated at any cost, because see, after all, they are seeking livelihood. They are not robbers. They are not the problem. They are coming and doing something.
So what we realize is, even in these slums, it's not correct to brush all slums with the same brush.
Yeah.
Because these slums, when they have told me that government has given them shown them some other place, they say if we go stay there, our children will become rowdies and gulas. So that means this slum doesn't want to be with another slum, because that slum is a different kind of a slum, and this slum is a different kind of a slum.
100%. There are so many variations, and there's so much of dadagiri, and there's so much of In fact, I'm telling you, my friends, most of my women friends who are housewives and who basically are in kitty parties and all that, I told them do some social work. So one day, without telling me, they went into one slum. They were sure that, after that it was a nightmare for them. They said, we won't go anywhere. I said, first, who asked you to go there first? I told you, before you start social work, consult, I would have told some, innocuous thing like maybe protect a lake or something like that. So, it's true that they don't look at people with, they have their own agenda. Some of them very strong. Network. You won't believe my driver apparently offered to find a place for someone who works in my office in his slum, and he's getting commission for renting that place.
Yeah.
They have their own businesses they keep doing in their own localities. So.
In terms of slum distribution, I just read that we have about 1400 something slums in Nigeria. Right? Which is the area which is like really poor slums kind of thing? I don't think Bandara is Bandara.
There are quite a few there. See,
but these slums, for example, we've seen that the houses are really bad. This is behind NIMS. It's called
Ramanzal.
Ramakrishna Nagar. It's called.
While going to IIPM, before that, right side road.
Okay.
Those people are okay economically in terms of, because we've seen TVs in those houses, LCD TVs, and which is also, the houses are bad, very bad. But then they have some equipment, and because they work in nearby localities as maids and all, they earn decently. But so that's why when we ask them, are there any services gaps that you see, right? We do not get water. Is there a problem with something? No problem at all.
Because they are notified slums. See, in slums you have non-notified and notified slums. Notified slums have all services, and they pay for the services very loyally.
Right, they pay.
They're okay.
Yeah.
That's what. So non-notified slums are those real big, shanty towns with nothing at all and too much of disease, crime, hygiene problems, and all kinds of things. So you have to locate a few of those and go and that's why, as I said, if you want to stick to the housing issue and all that,
we can talk to them.
Maybe that way. But if you think there are other ways of doing it, that's also fine. Or you want to help Not only this, are you focused on slums right now? Or?
Not necessarily, but the first thing that we have taken up. So a little bit more study we wanted to.
Yeah. Also, you can engage some educational institutions who can come and, for instance, I know in St. Anne's, I have been advising their women's studies group. They have chosen some slums and they go there regularly and give them a lot of counseling, not ordinary counseling, a lot of counseling on nutritional requirements for young girls, pregnant women. I mean, it's very important, I'm telling you. Because in India, if you see, there's a death every time a woman delivers. There's infant death, and all because of lack of nutrition. And not because they can't afford the food. They can, but they're choosing wrong. You know, simple things that are available in India. I'm telling you, most people don't even care for a banana because I think stupid thing is available on the roads, right? You don't value it, but it's such a powerful, it gives you 100 calories, it gives sodium, potassium, whatever. So these things are important, choosing right, and just tell them a little bit of ragi every day. That kind of concept. So you can even federate work with such groups, And I'm telling you, I'm so happy that the college is doing that. So tie up with education. Central University, they invited me for a lecture, right? And then the Vice Chancellor wanted me to help him with a master plan for his 2,000. He has, Central University has 2,000 acres. So I said, more than the master plan, I'm interested in working with your, they have a women's cell where they were doing a program for all heads of departments of, the women's cell from other universities. So I said, you have to come and maybe design a program. They were completely jobless. The minute they saw me, they were so excited. What can we do for the city? And and such people will be there. You can just catch them and then make them do something. So I gave them some background work and they're doing. So you can tie up with, I'm telling you, St. Francis, the girls are so smart. They can plan completely, and then give you some, do some surveys, and that is a part of their curriculum. That's also a part of the curriculum. So go to an unnotified slum where the people are unhappy and whatever. So if you go to a happy slum, you'll feel, man, no wonder they're not leaving. Yeah, you would have also thought, right? Maybe other than the housing.
Yeah. Everything else looks okay.
You will not believe, if you see my maid, she looks gorgeous. She's like good looking. And if there is a strike, she'll take an auto and she'll come. I don't know however she manages to get an auto. Don't even ask me. And she married off her children and she paid 5 lakhs in dowry. And I'm telling you. So there are so many assets that she has that I don't have. I keep telling her, no, see, and she has what we call as, they're in the chit business. So, she's paying 20 lakh chits. And my cook, by the way, my cook comes from, she lives in a gated community. She lives in a duplex house. I'm really not joking. You're most welcome to see her house. And when I buy something, she says,
can we work at your house?
You'll be really surprised to know. That's what everybody laughs, when I tell this. They think that I'm paying them more. Actually, I'm not paying them at all. I'm just paying them like anybody else. They want to just work in my house. Whatever.
I think they have some fringe benefits.
Exactly. We have a great time. We basically have a great time. But the point I'm trying to make is, these people, the so-called low economic group, have their own ways and methods of saving, have their own ways and methods of asset profiling that even middle class people can't do. They have their own methods. In fact, there's a big case study. I think Harvard itself published something on how they have that kind of, agree or no? She's smiling, that lady there is smiling. There's a lady who, my son has a problem, so she used to come for a massage. And she used to come and talk about buying gold jewelry, which in my life I wouldn't have thought of buying. So what I'm saying is, basically they have a way of saving. They can profile their assets properly and they plan them. So even before we want to go and help them in a slum, think that they are not people to be helped, but they are people who can be escalated to the next level. We need to do that. Do you agree? Because the potential is very huge, very huge. I'll make my cook an international cook, for sure. Really? Because the potential is there. Take her next to the next level. Okay? So now, can I leave? Okay? So thanks for your time, and I wish that all of you apply yourselves. If there's anything, do email me. And if you federate and do even a small thing, like I was telling Suman, even from choose one. The difficulty in choosing you have to overcome, because there are so many things, and so you get excited to do this work, that work. Just choose one. If you choose one, stay there, stay there. And then from A to point B movement is also a great thing, given India and its complexity. Okay? So all the best.
Good afternoon, I am Chaitanya. I have the honor of putting a lot of thanks. Actually, yeah, just thinking, please sit down. See, I was just thinking through some of this, and as you all know, as Karuna ji also said, 80% of all growth is going to happen in cities, right? And we think our GDP is going to grow maybe threefold, right, in the next 20 years or something. We already have a flawed city structure, it just evolved, right? So we have no idea what's going to happen in the future. With such a complex topic, I think Karuna ji has actually put the whole thing in such simple terms that we can all understand, right? And at some point, we hope we'll take all of your advice and work at your house and also build some houses and all that. But thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming here. On behalf of one, I would like to request Professor Subbaya ji to just give a moment or two.
It's my pleasure.